Hello and welcome to the Cultural Index series, where we look into the lore, history and other junk around science fiction species. This time we're looking at the Star Trek fuzzy cat people, the Caitians. Much of this content is drawn from Apocrypha and Star Trek Online, as there is very little to go on from the primary source materials, the shows. The Caitians have only featured in the original animated show, Lower Decks, and in the background of a couple of films, and with little background lore. This species actually shares a lot in common with humans from a lore perspective, which should become relatively clear as we go through their history. But first up, let's take a look at them biologically. The Caitians are a felinoid species, around humans in height, although being evolved from cat-like creatures, they are naturally more dexterous. They have a greater jump height from their lithe forms, and some sources depict them with digitigrade legs, meaning that they have animal-like legs and walk on their toes. This is not a universal depiction, however, so it is probably a matter of artistic license. Likewise, in the Star Trek Into Darkness film, we see supposed Caitian twins, but they are never defined as such in film, so we could be dealing with a hybrid species or just an alternate design because film redesigns. Typically, they have orange, brown or yellow fur, although there were rarer exceptions that were black, dark blue or golden hued. Their eyes were almost universally yellow in colour and possessed potent dark vision of 120 feet. Wait, no, wrong franchise. Potent night vision. This is because of the cat-like slit irises that allowed for a greater visual acuity and a high degree of adjustability in low light levels. The placement and function of these eyes suggests that they evolved as predators on their planet, and the prominent canine fangs add to this. They can also perceive a higher spectrum of frequencies with sound, making them excellent scouts and communications officers. The fur on the back of their head grew longer than the fur on the rest of their bodies, with the exception of the tail ends perhaps, and resembled common humanoid hair. Males could grow out hair around their muzzle to lengths rivaling primate humanoid beards. Their homeworld is a little more complicated to explain. In beta lore, there are two tellings that don't necessarily contradict. One records their home system as having only 2 planets, while another source lists over 6. It's believed that the Caitians thousands of years ago shared a common ancestor with the Kzinti species, another felinoid species, but one markedly different from the Caitians as Klingons are from Vulcans. The tales go that their homeworld of Pharasa was settled by the Kzinti ancestors in ages past and went its own way. Around the 17th century, by human reckoning, the Caitians were already a spacefaring species, with warp drive, and were delving deep into eugenics. They created their own augment program, just as humans did in Trek lore, and faced similar results. Using these psychotropic Nepata leaves, they created a more powerful but aggressive offshoot, the Pharasians. War ensued, and the Caitians were chased from Pharasa, yielding the planet to its new masters, the Pharasians, while they travelled to a new world in the Alpha Quadrant. This world was in the Lynx constellation, an F-type star called Linsis 15, with only 2 planets in the system. One was an M-class world with a very near-Earth quality and 2 moons, Rhea and Sura, while the other was uninhabitable. This move was called the Caitian Diaspora, and somehow not mentioned by the species ever again. It was over 800 years before Caitian biologists unearthed this information. They have colonies on Havilind, Hoklor 4, Akadana, Narvel, and the Kate system's asteroid belt is rich in minerals and dilithium, giving them a solid foundation on which to build their society. 2249 was a busy year for the Caitians as they made contact with a series of other species, including the Orions and the Ferengi. Then finally, they made first contact with the United Federation of Planets. It did not take them long to join the UFP in full, and some records indicate this happened around 2270. Accurate or not, there were Caitians present in Starfleet from at least the 2250s, which isn't that strange as we see examples of species joining Starfleet before their government allies with the Federation, like Bajor. By 2286, the Caitians had members on the Federation Council, such as Sorel. This guy was seen in Star Trek IV and was responsible for getting many early Caitians into Starfleet, using his position to swing posts on many ships for his people, believing wholeheartedly in the United Federation of Planets and the effect it could have on his people. They continued to be a Federation member world well into the 24th century. In their own culture, thankfully unlike house cats, they are actually very sociable and cooperative with their own kind and others. They have a strong appreciation for arts, philosophy, and generally design things to be aesthetically pleasing. They value these traits far more than their martial prowess, although, as natural predators, they do make fearsome warriors. Claws, fangs, reflexes, and pouncing ability, you get the picture. Because of this natural draw to beauty and higher thought, many Caitians pursue an artistic hobby of some kind, such as poetry. Yeah, it's no wonder the Federation snapped them up. Their familial network can be vast, as they keep track of their extended families and are born into litters, which keep in close contact throughout their lives. This social bonding through clans leads to families into the hundreds of members. The native dialogue of the Caitians is still a spoken one, but generally includes a lot of lower tones, deep in the throat, which includes purrs. As such, many find transitioning to the comparatively higher tones of humanoid conversation a little taxing. With practice though, it works out fine. I'm piecing together their naming convention based on observation here, as there are some patterns, but take this with a grain of kitty litter. They do seem to have two names, however, many often simply adopt a single title. Many of these commonly used names include a prefix letter followed by an apostrophe, such as Mares, Soral, or Ta'ana, with a strong preference for the prefix with M. In cases where we learn the two names of a Caitian, the apostrophized name is the latter, but the one used to address them. It could be that the last name by itself is enough to signify both their family and individual name, but who knows. Caitians are adept engineers too, and have manufactured a variety of starships that Starfleet does generally not specialise in. In Star Trek Online's war-shaken setting, the Caitians actually make these ships available to Starfleet, so the organisation doesn't have to waste time developing its own. These include fighter ships and carrier vessels, two aspects where Starfleet is lacking. Such ships included the large Atrox and Aspero-class carriers, each holding hundreds of smaller fighter shuttles, such as the Stalker stealth fighters. Mirroring their dexterous, predatory roots, they also developed several low-power, near-emissionless stealth escorts, like the Shikaris class. These vessels are designed with organic but cutting curves to give a sharp yet elegant look to them, I guess kinda like a cat, and definitely in line with their indulgence for design. Overall, the Caitians not only live on a planet with the same climate and near-identical gravitational pull as Earth, but they share humans' messy history with genetic modification, paying a heftier price for it than humanity ever did. Their ideals of philosophy and an appreciation of artistic expression is undoubtedly what drew them to the Federation, and vice versa. If the dates can be believed, they could be one of the fastest joining species in history, going from first contact to members in only 21 years. Until the Dominion Wars, at least. Star Trek lore around them says that they're common throughout Starfleet and the galaxy, even sharing UFP planets with the Andorians, humans and others, and they get along with almost every other species, unless you meet a perpetually grumpy cat serving on a ship of little importance. Mostly they are good kitties. Thanks for watching this index on the Caitians, and as usual I'm putting the next species up for vote, but not really, because it's way overdue. So the choices are the Xindi primates or the primate Xindi. So until the next video, thanks for watching, and I've been Rick, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye. Kajit has wares if you have quite— No, let me finish it!